Hi everyone, I'm Christina, founder of Jai Bhakti Yoga Foundation, and I wanted to go over a couple of poses that will help with alleviating back pain. It may not take it away altogether, but it definitely will help alleviate some of the pain that we feel when we do yoga, when we are walking, when we are doing everyday simple activities that may trigger some sensitivity in the lower back. So there's 7 poses that we're going to work on, and if you want just to kind of like get an idea of where we're going with them, the first one's going to be downward facing dog. And what I'm going to ask is that you have 2 blocks and a blanket in your mat. Any brand, mat, block, all that, props, works fine. Lots of people ask me what mat I like to use. I'm really fond of jade yoga mats, so I'm using a jade yoga mat. I just really like the way it's really grippy, and it helps me from not slipping. It really is a very strong, sturdy mat if you want something that's not going to make you slip. So that's why I use jade. So you can use any mat, of course. I just like that fabrication on the top. So getting ready for downward facing dog, you want to either use your blocks and place them at the top of your mat, okay? And then from here, you're going to come onto all fours, okay? Now, keep in mind that if you have very sensitive knees or sensitive wrists, then something I want to ask you to do is A, definitely use your blocks, but B, sensitive knees, if you have that blanket, you can place a blanket underneath your knees, okay? And then that will just give you some cushion, some padding here. And then the other option is for sensitive wrists is really pressing into the base, distribute the weight evenly from the ball of the hand, like right underneath the knuckle part here, and then all the way out to the finger. So the entire hand has weight distribution on it as well. You can also come to fist or grip the outsides of your mat if you prefer. So there's always couples of options. So from here, I'm going to use blocks today, so I can press my hands into the block, roll my shoulders over my wrists, and tuck my toes. From downward dog, I'm going to keep my tummy nice and strong here by breathing. So inhaling, my belly's going to press forward, and when I exhale, I'm going to suck it up and in. And then I'm going to take my tushy to the sky, but I'm going to keep my knees bent. And then I just want you to keep in mind now, when you're in class, a lot of people tend to do this thing. So you're rounding the spine because you think that it's making it easier. But in reality, you're actually causing a little bit more pain in the shoulder area, as well as you're scrunching up by the neck, and it really just is an uncomfortable position to be in altogether. So it's not going to help you. What will help you, bend your knees, bring your tummy towards your thighs, press into the blocks, or press the front of the mat away from you, and now roll your shoulders away from your ears. And then from here, maybe you shake your head yes, you shake your head no, but that way you get a sensation of, wow, my head has some space here. So now, maybe take a little peek at your toes. Feet are going to be about hip distance apart, and then you're just going to take your tush to the sky a little bit more. But when you take your tush to the sky, don't straighten your legs. Bring your tummy towards your thighs more and push into your hands more, but without taking the shoulders up towards your ears. Then maybe straighten one leg and then straighten the other, but only when you feel open enough to do that. If your hamstrings are speaking to you, I'm going to have you bend your knees. So you're still protecting your lower back, and then keep bringing your tummy up and in and really stretch out. They call this downward dog because dogs take a nice deep stretch, and you'll notice their tailbone reaches to the sky and they find long length from the back of their neck all the way to their little tailbones, and that's why we get down dog. That's where we get it from that deep stretch, okay? So now this should be alleviating some pain, so you should be able to take about 5 breaths here. And then once you're done, we're going to bring our knees down to the ground. Good, and now we're coming into the second pose. This is known as child's pose. Your toes are going to touch. Now there's a couple ways to do child's pose. Knees can be together. Knees can be to the width of the mat, okay? You can also bend your forearms when you come down and support your head here. You can use a block at the highest height and place your forehead here as well. Now, if this is not serving you and you're fine with going all the way back, then take your tailbone towards your heels and allow your head to come down towards the ground. Typically your forehead will touch the ground. I'm just looking at you guys so that I can make sure you guys are following along, even though probably I can't see you, but I make pretending that I can. So now from here, a couple of options. If this is really, really uncomfortable for you, just is this not happening right now? Let's work on it. Let's take a blanket and let's roll the blanket so that it becomes like a chimichanga, all right? And then you come back onto your hands and knees and you're gonna take this chimichanga and you're gonna place it right on those calves, okay? Now, once you have it on your calves, if you want it even bigger, you can use a bolster or you can roll a mat with the blanket and make it larger, okay? Go ahead and sit back and that should feel way better. And then same options apply. Reach the arms out in front of you and then take a block and place your forehead on that block. And just rest here for about 5 breaths and that should open up some space along your lower back. If you want more, you can reach the shoulders down and let the shoulders come forward and really relax deeper into the child's pose. And if you needed to, again, a couple of options. Imagine you had a bolster, get a bolster, a couple pillows and stack them so that you have some space here. Another option is using a chair and resting your head on the chair. So there's a couple options for you there. And then we're going to transition from child's pose into pigeon pose. And pigeon pose is a little bit stronger pose. So you're going to unroll your chimichanga now. We're going to fold it in half. All right. And then we're going to fold the mat this way in half. Now we're going to fold the mat again. Okay. And now we're going to fold the mat again. So you're folding it long. And then you're going to fold it in halfsies, all right? Fringy side can go wherever, but keep this next to you, all right? Because what we're gonna work on now is getting into the pigeon pose safely, all right? So hands down, let's go ahead and come into downward dog for a moment, all right? And then let's just lift the right leg up, find a little stretch, just a little one, just kick your leg back, okay? Bend your knee. And you're gonna bring yourself forward. And if this is too much, then just take your knee down, left knee down to the ground. But you're gonna take your right shin, okay, right shin, and you're going to make it come just parallel to the front of your mat. It might not go parallel, okay? But take your right knee behind your right wrist, and then you're going to take your right ankle towards behind your left wrist, okay? Now, it may be completely 90 degrees to the front of your mat. Beautiful, fine, you're good, no worries. However, not all of us are that flexible yet. So in order for us to feel what you feel, we have to start small. So bring your heel towards your groin, okay? Here's where this blanket comes in. The blanket, you're gonna take it right underneath your tushy, all right? I'm gonna turn so you can see what it looks like. So my tushy is gonna be in the camera, but I just need you to see what I'm doing. So I have my knee and my shin parallel to the front of the mat. Right where my tushy is, I'm walking my left leg back so I can sink into the pose and really feel my hip flexors opening, but I'm gonna take that blanket, I'm gonna take it underneath that tushy so that I'm not putting all my weight into the tush. I'm putting my weight evenly into the hips. My hands are down to support me, or I'm going to use my blocks to stabilize me, and I might just stay right here. Now take notice of my back foot, all right? I don't want it to turn in. I want it to be pointing actively back. So it is a strong, long line of energy. I'm going to do it from this side so you can see. what it looks like. Just walking my leg back just until I feel that edge, that stretch. I'm not coming down yet. I'm still lifted on my blocks, but I'm taking my blanket and I'm putting it right underneath my right hip flex, my right hip, so that I can stay lifted here and feel supported. Now this is going to protect my lower back because I'm not pinching my lower back here. I'm lifting and my tummy is lifted and toned here so that I can protect myself. Now my back foot, I want to make sure that I'm pointing it directly back. I know the ottoman might be in the way here, but I'm pointing that foot directly back and pressing into the top part of my foot so that I can stay active in that left leg. And then on the exhale, I will begin to come forward, and then eventually I might come down to laying down all the way down. Or I might walk these blocks forward. So it's up to you. You have your blocks that you can use as well. And you can bend the elbows on the mat and just relax. Just relax into the pose. If you're holding tension, then it's going to be more uncomfortable for you. So it's better to take baby steps in pigeon, and I'll do a separate video just for pigeon alone, but that's just some ways to get into pigeon. The next one we're going to work on is triangle pose. So you don't need your blanket for triangle pose, so go ahead and set that aside. But what you will need is a block, maybe both of them. So I have pretty chubby looking blocks, but blocks come in all shapes and sizes. If you had anything going on with your arms, right? So you felt that you have some limitations with the shoulder, then what I would suggest is stacking your blocks or just resting the back of your hand on your leg when we get into the pose. And I'll show you. Probably have my head chopped off right now, but hear my voice, hear what I'm saying. So I'm going to take a step. So I come from standing. Let's start from standing, right? So we're at standing position at the top of the mat, okay? So just focus here on the legs anyway. So now keep your right foot right where it is. Step back, left leg. Take a leg's distance apart step, okay? Now your back foot is going to turn about 45 degrees. For some, typically in some vinyasa classes, we're in either warrior 2 or peaceful, or we have a hip opening in the class at that point for most classes. But again, just by doing this, I felt something in my lower back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my left foot in about 45 degree angle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage, I'm going to squeeze my glutes, I'm going to squeeze my butt, I'm going to lift up, zip up through the lower abdominals and through the tummy. Now my arms are going to go out, long T-pose, but I'm going to take my right hip and I'm going to slide it underneath the left. So imagine you have somebody pulling your right hand forward, okay? And then when you can't reach anymore, so that's when your back is starting to talk to you, you might press into your feet and lift up a little bit. And then from there, you're going to turn and let the right hand come down, and you're going to let the left arm come up, okay? Now, another option here is, here we have our blocks. So I'm going to take my block, level 2 height, level 3 height, okay? So I'm building my blocks, building my tower. Again, I engage my glutes, press into my right big toe mound, slide my right hip underneath my left. I'm holding onto my hips here because this is how I feel comfortable at this moment in time. And I'll take 5 breaths. I might decide to take my right hand down to that tower. If that tower is too high, you can turn your block, okay? Now from here, I feel something in my lower back. What do I need to do? Well, I need to bend into my right knee and then turn my left hip open. So I'm going to rotate my foot so it's parallel to the back of the mat now. I'm going to roll my shoulders back. And now I'm going to squeeze my butt and I'm press into my big toe mounds. I'm really root my feet into the earth. And then as I keep pressing into my right hand, I might decide to lift my left arm up and turn my gaze to look to the sky, lift my forehead higher than my chin so I'm not straining my neck, which then turns into a spine, which then turns into the lower back, because now you're over straining the neck area. So you want to keep soft in that neck space. You don't want to be straining to hold it. If it's a struggle, then just turn your gaze and look down to the ground. Now keep squeezing everything in towards your midline. Breathe, and then you're going to come out of the pose by taking your left hand to your left hip, bend into the front knee. Nice big breath in. And then exhale, stand up. Hands to your hips, straighten the front leg. You can heel toe your back foot in slightly, and then come to the top of your mat. Now, next pose is going to be cat-cow pose. And we do this probably in every single one of my classes. It never ever fails. Again, I always want to encourage the use of any props for sensitive knees, and then also blocks for your hands, for your wrists. So we're going to come into cat-cow. So we start in a tabletop position. The feet behind you at a perfect number 11. Knees right underneath your hips. Hands underneath your shoulders. Really pull your heart forward. Look forward. Now, we're going to drop your belly and we're going to lift the tailbone. We're going to lift the chest and we're going to look up. And then on the exhale, articulate the spine. So really feel the spine opening up here as you curve your pelvic floor under. Round your spine. Tuck your head. Tuck your chin. Inhale, we're going to unfurl. So we're going to roll up to the crown, through the lower back, lifting the tailbone towards the sky. Gaze towards the sky. Exhale, round, tuck your tailbone. Float all the way through the upper back. Chin to the chest. Stretch out the cervical spine, which is your neck. And then inhale, curl up from your tailbone like a little ball rolling up your spine, and roll your gaze up to the sky, and then roll it out on your next breath. And this is a really good time to play with also child's pose. You can press back. This should feel good if you stretch back and then come back up. So you always have those options to combine a couple of these poses. Now the next one we're going to play with is forward fold, and this one is another video that needs to be broken down because I see so many crazy things in it. But go ahead and tuck your toes and let's walk our hands to our feet for a moment here. Let's remove any props that we don't need, such as the blanket, but bring your blocks. I would say absolutely 100% bring your blocks. Now bring your feet to a number 11. Bend your knees. And then let your stomach come down towards your thighs. Let your head come down towards the ground. Now, I see this all the time. This is not forward fold. This is like really sad zombie. So, what we want to do is get our body to feel really good in a forward fold. And how we do that is bring awareness to our feet first. Feet, number 11, hip distance apart. And then bend your knees. And then bring your tummy, instead of curving it, press your tailbone to the sky, roll your tummy onto your thighs, bend your knees. Notice a huge shift just in that simple movement. Arms down towards the ground, or take them to blocks, any height of blocks that serves you. Tuck your head, gaze behind you. Keep strong in your feet, engage your thighs, press the thighs to the back of the room as you draw your crown towards the ground more. You should feel no pain at all in the lower back. Keeping the knees slightly bent, drawing your chest closer. And then from here, on your inhale, we're going to press into the hands and look up halfway. Exhale, fold it forward. And you can reach for opposite elbows here if your arms tend to touch the ground and you want a little more stretch. Shift your weight forward into the balls of your feet also, so you can play with pressing the heels into the ground and noticing how that feels in the hamstrings, getting a hamstring stretch. And then you're going to come back to center, and then very slowly we're going to lower ourselves down to the ground. Now the next pose that we're going to play with, so we went over basically downward facing dog as one of the poses. We went over child's pose as another pose. Pigeon pose we brought in, and we brought in triangle and cat-cow. Now the last, and then forward fold. So the last pose that we're going to do now, I'm just trying to go over it with my head, is going to be upward facing dog. Upward facing dog. We're going to do upward facing dog and then take child's pose to rest, and that's where we'll end. So you don't need your blocks, and what you do need is to protect your lower back by taking your feet hip distance or wider, and I'll show you what that looks like. So in upward facing dog, the legs are extended long behind us, and let's start on our belly. So let's come all the way down. Okay, let's just roll ourselves down to the ground here. Okay, now your feet are going to be hip distance apart. All right, now for some it could be a little bit wider. All right, that's okay. All right, now your hands are going to be right underneath your shoulders, and you're going to roll up. Now in order to do this, you probably are like, whoa, I already feel it in my back. Are you crazy? Okay, let's work on that. Squeeze your tush a lot. Now squeeze your glutes, not where your glutes are your tush. Squeeze your thighs, okay? Now if your feet lifted up, press the tops of your feet into the ground. Now your whole lower body is super engaged, okay? Now the other thing you need to do now to protect your lower back more, press your pubic bone into the mat. Now zip up your tummy, hollow out the belly even more. Your chest may have pressed into the ground a lot. Now from here, as you're holding all that in, press your hands into the ground and lift your chest. Now actively press into the tops of your feet. Squeeze your glutes so much, press your pubic bone forward more, and you're gonna lift up an inch more or two. Now for some of you, this might be good. You're gonna stay here. You're like, whoa, this is intense. I can squeeze your tush, protect that lower back. Bend the elbows, maybe take it a little bit lower, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit lower. But wherever you are, you can start even if it's 1 inch off the ground. You can start here at the beginning. Everything has a seed. So you start and then nurture as you work your way up. Now, for those of you that are ready to take it all the way up to upward facing dog, you're going to come up, lift up off of your knees, and then really engage those legs, protect your lower back, and lift your chest. Upward facing dog. Exhale, press back, child's pose. Another nice pose, and I'm just going to throw that in there as a bonus, puppy pose. Knees underneath your hips, hands out to the width of the mat. Draw your chest down. Butt in the sky. I know it looks funny, but it feels really, really good. Really, really good. Okay. Then from here, you're gonna come up, come to seated, and thank yourself for your practice. Thank yourself for getting on your mat and for working on those areas that hold tension. There'll be more videos that have to do with lower back, but for today, I figured those 7 + 1, 8 poses would be beneficial for you to work on and play with until we do our next video again. So much love, stay safe, practice safe, and as always, consult a physician before you practice in case there may be some limitations we need to work with. Thank you so much for tuning in, and namaste.